I'm Chris. That's Ron. And if you're seeing this, that means the Ohio State Rutgers game just wrapped up, and Ohio State takes care of business. They continue their dominant run, number one team in the country. Obviously, this being the very, very small appetizer to the big game next week as Ohio State looks to take down Michigan. But today is about the Rutgers postgame. Ron, how the heck are you?
You know the best thing about being 11-0?
The chance to go 12-0, man.
Feels like the season has just flown by, and like they said during the postgame, the second that clock hits zero, it is officially Michigan week. But we have a game to recap.
Yep, it's officially Michigan week, but we do have a game to recap. It was a fascinating game. You never thought felt like Ohio State was in any kind of danger. They weren't the sharpest. And obviously the big storyline in this game was going to be, how did Ohio State fare without two of maybe the top 5 players in the country? I think Jeremiah Smith's the best player in the country, and I think there is an argument to be made for Carnell Tate to be the 5th best player in the country. And Julian Sayin to go out there today without those two. And so that is the big storyline. How do you think, I guess, Julian Sayin looked without those two? Or did you feel like the offense and the play calling was sluggish regardless?
I felt like the offensive play calling was sluggish regardless, but Gus Johnson let the world in on a little secret of how Ohio State finds a way to keep getting these receivers. And he brought up SFE, the South Florida Express, Ohio State's pipeline for wide receivers. The home of Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Inniss, Mylon Graham, Devin Sanchez, Ryan Shazier, the list of Buckeyes from SFE. The list just continues to go on, and they expect to add 2 more on signing day with Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-White. You see Brandon Inniss pictured at the bottom get his opportunity today and prove why he was a 5-star and adds a touchdown on the board. But I thought Julian, not the sharpest today. I mean, 13 of 19. But I feel like a lot of that had to do with pressure and the lack of receivers. I mean, the play calling didn't really do him any favors. I made the joke that the only red zone pass play that the Buckeyes have is PA power. It seems like they keep it super vanilla, and it wasn't any different today. And, the Buckeyes still find a way to get it done.
Yeah, it was weird today, man. Like, obviously, like, it felt like they did want to keep it really, really vanilla. I usually lean against that a lot of times when I watch offensive struggle, but today felt really, really, really vanilla. A lot of short passing concepts. It was wild to see a guy like David Adolph get a start today without, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith out there. But again, like, what do you want to do in this kind of game? Like, what is the goal? Because obviously, like, Michigan is next week, so the big goal is to avoid the slip up, right? You don't want to lose. The second goal is to, okay, let's make it out of here clean, because we do have our full season in front of us, and we do have to topple Michigan for the first time in like over 4 years. So like those two things matter. I would have loved to see a guy like Quincy Porter today. He wasn't healthy, obviously he didn't play, and I would have loved to see a little bit more Mylon Graham, but the coaching staff opted to play a guy like David Adolph a lot more than Mylon Graham, which I'm sure you and I will have plenty of conversations about through the week, because I was pretty bugged by that.
I was ready to have that conversation right now because I wanted to get your thoughts on it, because it felt like a very senior day type of moment with seeing David Adolph get the start on senior day in the shoe, a guy that we have not seen come in the game before Mylon Graham all year. And you don't see Mylon Graham, a former 5-star sophomore, get his opportunity until Brandon Inniss got banged up in the second half. Were you surprised by this? I mean, it's not very surprising that the staff would choose to do this, but like, were you surprised by them sticking with it the entire game?
Not surprised, definitely bummed. I do feel like every now and again, like it's either Reese Stocksdale or like David Adolph kind of blocking the way for one of these like really highly touted guys that we know are the future of the program. I mean, for me, that's where it's at. Cause like my stance is, okay, like, look, like we know naturally there's a drop off, right? There's a drop off between Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and the next two, X, Y, right? Or XZ. But at Ohio State, with the clip that Brian Hartline recruits at, with the SFE pipeline coming in, like, why wouldn't you use this as an opportunity to get a young guy at least some snaps? Now, I get it. You want to give David Adolph some burn. That's cool. Fine. You can do that. The cool thing about the receiver room is that you can do all that at the same time. And I thought this was a good chance to kind of get the next group of guys ready, the next group of guys some burn, while also playing David Adolph, especially because, like, we have our sources and speculation about the severity of the Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate thing, or the lack of severity. But still, Like we're one play away, and if one play away, I want to know my next best guy. With all due respect to David Adolph, I want to know. I want my next most talented guy to go in that game, and I don't think David Adolph is. I think it is. I think it's Mylon Graham. So I don't know. But again, like big gap. Coaching staff, they tell us over and over and over again, there is a very wide gap between that starting three and the next group. Right?
Yeah, it made me ask the question. Do you think Caden Dixon-White and Chris Henry Jr. are watching this game, rubbing their hands together as, hey, this looks like a room that's wide open for me to have an opportunity to come in and take snaps from next year? Carnell Tate is going to be departing, which leaves an opening. You didn't see Mylon Graham grab it by the horns this year. You didn't. David Adolph is out of here. Bryson Rogers, not much there today as far as contributions to the offense. Do you see one of these freshmen having an opportunity to potentially step in and fill Carnell Tate's role next year?
1,000,000,000%. You're going to need an alpha next year to kind of pair up next to Jeremiah Smith. You're 1,000,000% going to see the door open for a guy like Chris Henry or either of them. Like that, just
or Quincy Porter.
Yeah, I mean Quincy Porter too. Like one of those young guys is going to be the guy. Like I like Mylon Graham. I think Mylon Graham is fantastic, but the coaching staff is telling us that like, hey, we don't trust him. We don't have the same level of trust in him as his rating would suggest, right? And like you and I both study receivers at a pretty high clip, especially the receivers at Ohio State and how the coaching staff behavior projects them to the future. We know how this works, right? We see it, right? Can we talk? Or
oh yeah, we could absolutely talk about this wide receiver rotation because I mean today was like reminiscent of the Julian Fleming days of when like it already felt like we knew that JSN was the next guy. We're still seeing Julian Fleming trot out on the field. I mean, we saw Julian Fleming get a start as a true freshman for the Buckeyes. So it's always interesting to see. It feels like the coaching staff is very transparent about how they feel about the depth chart and where guys rank in the depth chart. And to see that opportunity, I'm going to chalk it up to it being a senior day type of moment for him, given the opponent and everybody just trying to get healthy to the next game and the game plan, because it was a very run heavy game plan. Yeah. I thought that maybe that's just what they're going with, but it's definitely a head scratcher going forward as what is this room going to look like next year and who's going to take that spot from Carnell? Because I don't think anyone's really done a good job of asserting themselves as the next guy up next year.
No one has, and I do have Quincy Porter kind of stamped. I think Quincy Porter's got a real shot. I do think BI is in the increased role. Is going to do more and more and more. Max Klare, just real quick. Max Klare was fantastic today. 7 catches, 105 yards, 15 yards per catch. Had a long of 40. It's funny because he does a thing where it doesn't look like he's running very fast, but he's separating from guys. Max Klare, this is kind of the receiving performance that we've been waiting on at Ohio State. Obviously, it's hard to have that kind of receiver performance when you've got, like, as a tight end, when you've got 2 freak shows, 2 monsters outside. Obviously, with those monsters gone, he's the guy that kind of got the bulk of things. Thoughts on Max Klare?
Embarrassment of riches from the Buckeyes. I mean, we talk about Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith being the best wide receiver duo in the country. And I mean, already starting to get compared to all-time duos. And it makes you forget the fact that the Buckeyes went out and got a top 3 tight end in the country last year in the portal in Max Klare, and a guy that really hasn't got the shine in his passing offense in the way that you saw him do at Purdue. And then today he reminds you why he was so highly touted coming out of the transfer portal with 7 receptions today and 105 yards and adding a touchdown to that, looking like, hey, what do we need wide receivers for? And we've joked all year like, hey, is this wide receiver you or tight end you? And it felt like tight end you today with Max Klare coming in and looking like an X receiver.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like the receiving thing for Max Klare's always been in there, right? Like we've always known that was there. He came to Ohio State because he was likely going to be tight end 1 in this draft, depending on where no matter where he went. But he came to this room because this room, developed a reputation in NFL draft circles of toughness and blocking. Those are the 2 things that Max Klare was missing, right? Because Max Klare, the receiver, fantastic. And he didn't really get to showcase it. And so I think a lot of people maybe felt like, was that just a fluke because he was at Purdue? But no. It's more just like more opportunity at Purdue than it is Ohio State. And what Ohio State got those two guys outside. I thought this was great to put on tape before the Michigan game. I thought it was great to show him kind of in that passing attack, kind of be efficient, be dynamic, and also like be the security blanket that starts hitting doubles, right? Because that's what I always talk about. I want my tight ends to be a security blanket. And the very best tight ends, turn those singles into doubles and triples. And what did he do today? You saw Julian saying, "Go, Max, go, Max, go," like that. And that's what he provides. And he's going to be a huge help. And even if the two A guys, like the two A-team receivers, are not 100% healthy, they'll still be a great decoy for a guy like Max Klare to have a huge impact. So very thrilled watching Max Klare today.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about him being the security blanket. The security blankets of this offense are the slot and the tight end. And to see Julian have to rely on Max Klare and Brandon Inniss just puts more on film of like, all right, go ahead, take the other two away. We still have two more than capable weapons, and Max Klare starting to fill himself towards the end of the game, adding the hurdle to, to
that
his
was nuts.
package.
That was nuts. I didn't like that. I'm like, Max, do not get hurt. Like, if everybody else is healthy, Max, go do that.
I love it just because it shows that his confidence is there. You talked about why he came to Ohio State, and a fun story from the season is they talked to Jeremiah Smith and said that Coach Mick, the strength coach, paired Jeremiah and Max Klare when he got to Ohio State, and they're like, "Well, why'd they put you two together?" He's like, because he didn't have that dog in him yet, but he has it now. And Coach Mick, that's part of his philosophy of like putting these guys together that they know are going to pull each other across the finish line and make sure that they develop. And, you see that dog in him out there today.
No, you 100% did. I do want to kind of stay in the receiver room. Just one quick note. BI catches everything. Only 2 catches today, but the one catch in the end zone, great catch.
Absolutely. I mean, a guy that has really just put his head down this season, the only 5-star that signed with the Big Ten in the class of 2023, and he's out there as the fourth option for this offense. He does the dirty work. He blocks. He's the punt returner. He's a captain for this team, and he hasn't had a explosive game as far as stats, but he's had moments, and it seems like you're watching the quarterback scramble out of the pocket, and it's like, man, who's he looking for? And then you just see Brandon Inniss come streaking across your screen, whether it's Penn State last year or whether it's him in the corner of the end zone where Julian Sayin has found him twice this year. It's a guy that he may not have the flashiest stats, but it's a guy that you have to account for week in and week out.
Yeah, and look, all the catches are loud. All of them are loud with him, and I can definitely appreciate that one. I want to talk about the run game. Bo Jackson, 19 carries, 110 yards, averaging 5.8 yards per carry with the 2 touchdowns. He looked elite from start to finish. I thought he was excellent today. He did have the fumble that kind of was the only like Debbie Downer on the day, but again, the things he does finding the hole, the things he does getting skinny in the hole, the things he does kind of turning that 6-yard run into a 10-yard run and turning that 3-yard run into a 6-yard run. I think he's rounding into really good form as we kind of head into the home stretch.
Absolutely. It was great to see him have a game like that, especially against this Rutgers defense who came into this game as one of the worst rushing defenses in the country. And with all the questions around Ohio State's rushing attack, you really wanted to see, hey, are these top backs in this room able to find a way against this defense that they should be able to have success against? And you see Bo Jackson, I believe this is his 3rd straight 100-yard game. You see James Peoples with an explosive run at the end of the game, and then Isaiah West also with 6 yards per carry, and then CJ Donaldson obviously cleaning up for his garbage time touchdown. It's not even a garbage time touchdown. It's a short yardage touchdown. He is the short yardage back, and you saw Bo Jackson get that opportunity and put the ball on the ground early in the game, and it's kind of like, I guarantee there's a couple coaches on the sidelines looking around like, I told you so, because the entire Ohio State fan base has been screaming, hey, try someone else in this red zone because we haven't had success running the ball, and you see Bo Jackson put it on the ground today. The one negative note on that performance, but again, you don't want them to have a perfect performance, especially going into this Michigan game. You want to see this team have things to work on and make sure that they stay hungry. Ryan Day said at the end of the game, there are already guys talking about the Michigan game on the sideline, so I know they're chomping at the bit to get there.
Yep, they are. Calic Manis only had 81 passing yards. That means that BIA was back in action. And honestly, people don't talk about it, but Ian Strong and KJ Duff, that's a real test. I know it's Rutgers, right? Like, I know it's Rutgers. I know it's not a great team. But Strong and Duff are 2 guys that are very, very good players. Obviously, KJ Duff having over 900 yards heading into the game, being one of the Big Ten's leading receivers, 6'6", 220 from Jersey. I know, excited about this matchup. For me, I was very, very impressed with what I saw from this unit in particular.
Absolutely. Strong and Duff come in as the leading receivers in contested catches in the country coming into this game. And I thought this would be an interesting matchup for the Buckeyes cornerbacks. You were interested to see how they decided to attack Devin Sanchez, the third down corner. Interested to see if Igbinosun would be able to avoid the penalties. Jermaine Matthews, uncharacteristic 2 penalties today. I would only really count the one.
I was going to say that one was really ticky-tack.
The first one was very ticky-tack. I thought that he had great coverage on that play. And to see the Buckeyes challenged again by, I mean, would you say 2 more NFL wide receivers? I mean, they had Denzel Boston earlier against Washington, didn't make much noise, and the Buckeyes again show up in dominant fashion against Rutgers and their duo of receivers.
Yeah, I'll say this. KJ Duff is better than Denzel Boston. Like that's how good of a player he is. And the strong kid is slightly below Boston. So this is a very, I mean, oddly enough, like Greg Schiano has recruited and developed a pretty good receiver room. Like that's a good receiver room. And so this is a good test. Obviously, Igbinosun, facing Rutgers, kind of the team that his brother played for. And, having the pick, even though it got wiped off the board, it was a cool moment. Did the whole Pat Bev thing, celebrating with the crowd. I thought this unit played really, really well. And I will live with both those penalties for Jermaine Matthews because on the second one, he got his head around anyway. So I will live with both of those. And it's funny because the Rutgers has been the only team that's really challenged him all year. He's kind of just been getting reps by himself. No one's even dared to go his way.
Absolutely. You brought up the Igbinosun almost interception. The reason why he ran into the crowd, it's senior night and his family's in town. Not only are they playing against his hometown team, but they're in town for senior night. He ran straight to his family in the crowd and tossed them the ball. I don't think they gave that one back. So I think he'll be pointing at that ball saying, hey, I got an interception on senior night. Don't worry about the details.
100%. 100%. All right. I want to talk about the guy who probably was the player of the game for Ohio State, Mr. Caden Curry. Mr. Caden Curry played absolute lights out. I thought he was exceptional. I thought the strip sack was incredible. I would have loved for them to review it, Ron. Because I thought he got in.
I would have reviewed the play. I thought he got in too, just because of the attempt at that athletic play that when the big men on defense have an opportunity to get in the end zone, they're going to do anything in their power to get there. And he looked like a gymnast out there on that almost scoop and score.
Yeah, no, he did. And honestly, like you could see other people on the field, like how was he able to scoop that up? Because usually, like when the big man tries to scoop, the ball ends up getting kicked around a lot. But again, overall, a great day from him. 6 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 2 TFLs. That gets him up to, I believe, 8 sacks on the year, maybe 7 sacks of the year.
8.
He's had a really productive season this season, and he was one of the guys who's been really loud. This season, the goal is to get a pair of gold pants, and it means a lot to him. And it feels like he's starting to uptick it kind of at the perfect time, right?
Yeah, and we've talked about his ability to wreck a game, and it felt like today was just another one of those games, and he shows you why. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times, how important it was for Larry Johnson to be able to keep Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson in this room, and he puts on an absolute show on senior night. We looked at the stats earlier in the week, and I mean, this front 4 for Ohio State and Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, Caden McDonald, and Taiwan Malone had more tackles for losses, and sacks coming into this game than Ohio State's front 4 last year coming into week 11. So to see them outperform them, and we saw the level up that front 4 took in the playoffs and their ability to get after the passer as the stakes ratcheted up. So it'll be interesting to see, does this front 4 have another gear once they get to the playoffs?
How much do you take away from Kenyatta Jackson not walking today for senior day?
I don't want to get my hopes up.
Okay. Because Curry walked. So for me, all right, he's good. He decided. But I would love to have one of the 2 back next year. That's the only reason I asked. All right, dude. Look, one of the things that did not get talked about by a lot of people this offseason, but you and I talked about it because you and I do a really good job. We just make sure we're on every topic, and because we're obsessive. The Lathan Ransom heartbeat thing. Lathan Ransom was the heartbeat of the defense last year. Not the best player, not the most important player, but I couldn't quite quantify or describe everything he meant to this team, especially down the stretch, what he meant in the locker room, what he meant on the football field, what he meant in terms of instilling fear into other teams' hearts. How would that end up being replaced? A pair of brothers replaced that, I think. These 2, the Stiles brothers, they feel like They're not the best players on the defense, but they feel like the heartbeat of the defense, and you can feel the real Ohio type of, I guess, intensity from them. Like it's hard. It's the heartbeat thing. I don't know how else to explain it.
I mean, we talk all the time about how important it is to have players from Ohio that truly understand what this team means to the state of Ohio. And I don't think there's two people that exemplify that more than Sonny and Lorenzo Stiles, both son of Lorenzo Stiles Sr., former Buckeye great and NFL player, guys that grew up right outside of Columbus and Pickerington. Lorenzo Stiles, an interesting path to Ohio State, starts off as a wide receiver at Notre Dame. Things don't quite work out. They move him to the defensive side of the ball, and he says, hey, if I was going to play defense, I would have just went to Ohio State where my dad went. That's where they wanted me to play. He comes back, earns a role in that nickel spot last year on a national championship team, and then takes over that role this past year. You see Sonny Stiles in the block, a guy that reclassified to come to Ohio State, and we watched him play against Georgia in a college football playoff game as a sophomore. We watched him play two different positions at Ohio State, now wearing the Blocko. Just the perfect representation of being a Buckeye through and through and representing the state of Ohio. And they have that understanding of what this game on next Saturday means to the entire state of Ohio. And without that type of understanding of what this team means to the entire state and all of Buckeye Nation, you don't have that heartbeat of the team. And I feel like the Stiles brothers exemplify that. And to see both of them have the opportunity to walk on senior day today was just great to see. You hate to see Lorenzo Stiles go down with an injury. We've talked about multiple times this year about what he adds to this defense. Is he the best player on this defense? No, but it allows everybody to play in the role that they excel at most. And it allows them to be more multiple with those safeties. It allows Devin Sanchez to only play on third downs and not necessarily be forced into the cornerback 2 role. You hope he's going to be able to find a way to get healthy before the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Lorenzo Stiles and Sonny Stiles, they're both like max effort guys, and that's like part of the heartbeat thing, right? So even when things like aren't going well for them, they can still make a huge play here or there because they are max effort. And I believe, I'll have to double check, I believe at this part of the year, we have 1 game remaining, and I don't think Sonny Stiles has a single missed tackle on the year. And I will make sure I pull that after I get more data from this game. But
Chris,
like,
before we pivot, I wanted to read off a list of all of the guys that did walk on senior day today. Sonny Stiles, Caden Curry, Davidson Igbinosin, Will Kazmarek, Lorenzo Stiles, Tywan Malone, Jaden Fielding, David Adolph, John Farlman, Ethan Onua, CJ Donaldson, Joey Velasquez, Buckeye legend, Mason Maggs, Deontay Griffin. Mason Maggs, also another Buckeye legend. Colin Johnson, and Eli Brickhandler, possibly the greatest jersey in Ohio State history.
Facts. You know who didn't walk also? Max Klare was eligible to walk as a redshirt junior. Did not walk. Maybe
no Austin Sareveld, no Carson Hinsman.
Yeah, I mean no. I mean none of the linemen. So
none of the offensive linemen. The Buckeyes, outside of Ethan Onua, have the opportunity to bring back. And Ethan never ended up winning a starting job here.
He's not even too deep anymore. He's not even too deep.
Yeah, honestly, because it seems like Ian Moore would be the first tackle on the field, and Padilla and Van Sickle are both ahead of him at that guard position. So, I mean, and it shows the Buckeyes' commitment to winning, the fact that that was not a cheap acquisition for the Buckeyes in the transfer portal, and he really never found a chance to play for the Buckeyes. So, a lot of guys, this is always a somber day for me as a Buckeye fan because it's always exciting. It's 1 week before the game. The holidays are right around the corner, and you sit back and realize, hey, this is a lot of these guys' last game in the shoe. And I mean, we've been watching Sonny since he was freshman, sophomore in high school. Some of these guys, we've watched them grow up right in front of our eyes. And to know that, I mean, even like a guy like Caleb Downs spent a year. I mean, we followed that recruitment every step of the way. We even watched him longingly while he was at Alabama, still finds a way to Ohio State, wins a national championship with the Buckeyes. And we just watched him play his last game in Ohio Stadium, and what a career it's been in the scarlet and gray. And just a big thank you to all of these guys, a ton of national champions and everything that they've given to this program. It's, you know, it's always a somber moment, the last game of the year in Ohio Stadium, knowing that this is going to be a lot of these guys' last time playing in front of the Buckeye faithful in Ohio Stadium.
1,000%. And then obviously they go on the road to Michigan and they got to kind of do the final thing. Just real quick, just for you, this is like a real time machine niche moment. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but do you remember the Michigan-Ohio State game way back when Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes were recruits, both committed to Alabama? And they both went to that game. There was all the rumors that they went to that game, and Michigan ended up winning, and they ended up leaving early. And now, you circle ahead, and it's Justice Haynes plays for Michigan, and Caleb Downs plays for Ohio State. Now, Justice is obviously out with the ankle injury, but it's wild that like these recruiting stories kind of end this way.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that Caleb Downs still has unfinished business when it comes to this Michigan team because he's never beat Michigan. He lost to Michigan as a true freshman at Alabama and lost last year. So a guy that transfers in from Georgia, not necessarily growing up in the rivalry, has a little bit of hate in his heart for that team up north. So it's going to be interesting to see what this game means to him this week. I'm sure he'll have an opportunity to talk to the media and also have some things to say on his podcast this week.
Yeah, 1,000%. A little bit of housekeeping as we get ready for the Michigan game. Injury-wise, obviously, we're hoping that Lorenzo Stiles is okay. If not, I thought Bryce West did a pretty good job in the game as well. When he got in, he's finally healthy. He looked and felt the part. Also, I thought it was really good. Devin Sanchez looked a lot better this week than he did last week.
Easily his best, I think his best performance and the most that they've asked him to do all year. So to see him have a moment of confidence before a game that means so much, and right before his big debut on Paramount Plus on his new docuseries.
The docuseries. Another quick note, I thought James Peoples continues to kind of carve out a role for him. I think heading into Michigan game, it'll be him as running back 2 and not Isaiah West, even though I do think Isaiah West is going to be the better running back long term. Do you agree or disagree with me there?
James Peoples is a guy that refuses to let fans write him off completely because, again, it feels like week in and week out for probably now 4 weeks, James Peoples has delivered a strong performance from the running back position. They talked about it on the broadcast. A guy that came into the season that most people expected to be cornerback 1. We described it as it felt like he was in bubble wrap at camp. We had a couple people that were at practices. James Peoples not getting a ton of carries throughout fall camp, not in a lot of the clips. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what's going on? And they're like, nope, bubble wrap. He's the guy. They know what they got. And then by week 2, everybody's like, Bo Jackson, now. Bo Jackson. Yep. So you see James Peoples, a guy that could have just hung his head and started sending text out to teams that were recruiting him prior to committing to the Buckeyes. And he just put his head down and kept working. And he seems to be the guy that refuses to be forgotten in that running back room. That's a 49-yard touchdown today. And that's a guy that I think has really piqued my interest as, I want to see him stick around and see what he looks like in another year in that Carlos Loughlin room.
Yeah, what is it? It's not how you met me as, it's who I become. He's the running back version of that. I think it's pretty safe to say. Other than that, I mean, I think the offensive line is obviously pretty set. If they're going to roll with Tegra kind of down the stretch, right? Like that just is what it is at this point. They're gonna figure it out. They're gonna roll with that. Lincoln Keenholt's got a lot of snaps today.
What do you make of it? You love to see it because the Buckeyes haven't really got an opportunity for Lincoln to get out there and really run the offense a ton this year. And for him to not only to get snaps of meaning, like Julian Sayin was still in the game while they were getting Lincoln out there. And
he got a lot of work throughout the game, not just garbage time, a lot of work throughout the game.
Yeah. And it's a guy that really hasn't had his opportunity since the Missouri game, but could be one play away from being in the game. Ohio State fans know it better than anybody. If your quarterback goes down, it doesn't mean your season's over. So to see Lincoln get out there and get some reps, given the history the Buckeyes have had in the college football playoffs with backup quarterbacks, it's good to see him get some work and put it on the film that, hey, that kid can scoot.
Mm-hmm. And then last quick note, unsung hero on this defense, Jalen McClain played an outstanding game again. He feels all over the place. This was also not a coming home game for him, but a game against kind of his hometown school. I thought he really looked and felt the part. This DB room is going to be okay for a long time. I thought him and Fahim Delane registered 4 tackles too. Pretty cool. So I'm really excited for this group. Obviously, the next target, next on the list is go beat Michigan. And you just hope that this is the year, man. Just hope this is the year.
You just hope this is the year. You can catch us next week right here on Bleacher Report for an instant reaction, win or loss. We've been here for 2 losses. Chris, you did a video earlier in the week for Bleacher Report about the Jersey pipeline, and I thought that was an interesting storyline coming into this weekend. A ton of Buckeyes out of New Jersey. You brought up Jalen McClain, Davison Igbinosun. We talked about him earlier. Tywan Malone, another guy on senior night. The Buckeyes not afraid to go to Jersey and find talent. Awesome. The amount of contributions that we've gotten from there. So I know today was a special day going against their hometown team. But Chris, it's enough talk about Rutgers. It's officially hate week. You know how this thing ends. It's always go Bucks. And of course, OH.
IO.